All right, class. First off, was always good day. I'm glad you're here. Excuse me. So, today we are going to be looking at one group of unlikely heroes and a person who is considered an unlikely hero from World War II. Okay. Now, the thing is, I use this term unlikely because uh, before the war, these guys were probably they were seen as like, what could you do? You can't do nothing. You know, they were looked down upon, and they proved they are actually heroes. And these guys proved that they can handle whatever was given to them. Okay, if just given a chance. All right, so that's why I use the term unlikely heroes. Okay, it's not to take away anything that they've done or accomplished or anything like that. It's just uh, that's how I mean it. Okay. So we're gonna analyze the who the Tuskegee Airmen were and how they were heroes. We're examining how Audie Murphy was able to do what he did. And we're gonna create an argument how the war might be different. The Tuskegee Airmen didn't exist. So you're gonna find out who these guys were, what they did, their success rate and things like that. And how would our war be different if these guys, never existed? All right, so here is your warm-up picture. So as you can see, still from that same artist. Um, so tell me this. What do you think this artist is trying to say about some Americans? You know, now there are some key words that you see on this picture that you might not know what it means. So I would take a minute to pause the video, to look it up, you know, or even ask around. What does this word mean? Ask somebody if you don't know. Again, if there's nobody near you, look it on your phone really quickly. Okay. Um, but what do you think this artist is trying to say about some Americans? Okay. So think about it. Pause the video. Write your response because we're moving on. In three, two, one. All right. So the Tuskegee Airmen. The thing is, Charles Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart. You guys may have heard those names before. You may have not. The thing is, they were aviation heroes. These were pilots who both crossed the Atlantic Ocean solo by themselves. Charles Lindbergh did it as a man by himself. People were like, "Oh yeah, he's amazing. He's so great. He's such a hero." And then Amelia Earhart did it, and people were like, "Oh damn, a girl can pilot not only pilot a plane but fly by herself with no problem, across the Atlantic Ocean." That was pretty impressive. And they made people want to be pilots. They made people think like, you know, that'd be so cool. I think I would want to be a pilot, you know. And African Americans were no exception to this. There were some African Americans who felt at that time in the 1930s, I want to be a pilot. I want to um, fly in the sky and things like that, you know. But in the South, especially in the South, they were not allowed to even try to take classes. Nothing at all. Books, things like that to read about how to do that, nothing. Okay. Um, Now, were other places around the country that bad? Some were, but definitely in the South, no, there was no chance. And there's like there's a better chance for a snowball to last in hell than there was these guys to get pilot classes. Okay, let's just say it like that. Now, 1938, President Roosevelt encourages civilians to take pilot training programs. Okay. Now, remember, 1938, the United States is not in war yet. That's not until 1941. But again, writing's on the wall, and he's kind of really encouraging civilians. Hey, you guys should really take up flying if you really want to try. You should take up some classes and things like that. But really, he's like thinking, like a chess player, two steps ahead. Now, thing is though, a lot of military establishments, and especially in the South, again, felt no, we don't need black pilots. We don't even need black soldiers. Why? Because blacks the black soldiers would be inferior to the white soldiers, and they would perform poorly in combat. They would run away. They would drop their guns as soon as the first bullets and bombs start dropping. They would run away. Again, these guys who said this kind of stuff in the 1930s in the military, um, they're not stupid. They know their history, and they know African Americans fought in the Civil War and fought bravely. They know there was black people fought in World War One and fought bravely. So this whole thing is not that, oh, they truly believe that these guys are black soldiers are scared and run away. It's their racism, because again, they're smart enough to know, yeah, we've had black soldiers in the U.S. history, and they have fought valiantly, bravely. Everything from the 54th Massachusetts, you know, all the way to Alvin Johnson, if you remember him from World War One. You know, they fight bravely. So that whole notion that, oh, they're inferior, they perform badly in combat, that's pure racism talking and not logic. Okay. Now, there were some cities in the north, Chicago, Pittsburgh, that were really starting to realize, like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should expand and let African Americans take pilot classes. So they started training them in some places in the north, Chicago, Pittsburgh. I can't remember if New York did it or not, but it may have been. Okay. In September 1940, President Roosevelt lobbied, meaning he himself pushed to start training black pilots. Because now the war, it seemed like, is getting closer for us. The chances of us getting into a war seems pretty big. And so the War Department, decided, we should, okay, fine. If we're going to train some black soldiers to be pilots, we need to get them somewhere where they can train. And these numbskulls decided to train them at the Tuskegee Airfield in Tuskegee, Alabama. If you don't know where Alabama is, look at the map in the class. Okay, take a minute, look at where Alabama is on the map of the United States, and you'll see it's in the heart of the South. The one place where, well, not just the one place, but the dead center, basically, of the most racist places in America at that time towards African Americans. Was that a joke? Was that a legitimate place? I don't know. I haven't found out, you know. But why they chose that particular place, I don't know. Now, here is where things get interesting. All these, um, all these guys who signed up to be pilots, all these African Americans who signed up, they already had some experience flying. All right. Some guys actually even had their license. Okay. But the thing is, they got their license for like doing, like crop dusting and things like that. Maybe it's just flying here or there, things like that. But this is now talk about fighting. So you need coordination, maneuvering, things like that. So thing is also too, all these trainees were educated. All of them, every single one of them, either were college graduates or they were undergraduates, meaning they were like really close to getting their degrees. you know. So yeah, they were educated guys. Okay. Now there were some people there about in total, the whole Tuskegee experiment, there were about 1,000 pilots. Okay. Again, they didn't all show up at the same time at one time. No, this is throughout the war. There was about 1,000 pilots and nearly 14,000 guys who trained to be bombardiers, instructors, tower operators, navigator, and mechanics, both aircraft and engine. Okay. Now, I've in the past I've had students ask me, "Is there a difference between an aircraft and engine?" Yeah, there's a big difference between the person who just focuses on an engine and somebody who looks at the the aircraft as a whole. You know, you wouldn't take your car to a guy who just works on engines and tell him, "Hey, I need some help, fixing my chassis." He might be like, "Okay, cool, but I do specifically engines." He might know what you're talking about, how to fix it, things like that, but that's not where his specialty is. His specialty is engines. You know, so that's the thing. Now the thing is, the program. Some of those top military people were like, I don't know about these guys. Oh, I don't know. They're kind of show offy people, things like that. The program got a real boost when the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, showed up to the airfield. She wanted to see what was happening with the Tuskegee Project, um, and she wanted to see for herself how these guys could fly. Now, the top military people at this base were like, "Oh, Mrs. President, we will take you on a tour. We'll fly you around." And Eleanor Roosevelt, again, this woman, for lack of better terms, she was a tough woman. She had some balls. All right. And she basically says, "No, you are not going to show me anything. You are not going to take me anywhere. See that pilot over there? I want him to give me a tour. I want him to fly me around." And that's the guy you see in the picture right there. That's Charles Chief Anderson. And the thing is, from my understanding, at that time, she picked the best pilot in the whole group of the Tuskegee Airmen guys. He was like the best, if not one of the best. And so he took her on the plane and he flew her around and things like that. And gave her the aerial tour. Basically said, this is where this is, let's turn, and the plane just, you know, and it's not those planes that you have a cover or anything. It's in the open, where you just basically sat into it, you know, and photos and film were taken of it to kind of, again, to publicize, hey, we got some black soldiers and this is what they're doing. And people were like, holy crap, when they saw the video, like, oh my God, he's taking the first lady on a plane. He's just like doing all these maneuvers and things like that. And if you can tell from that picture, look at her smile. That's not a fake smile, like a little. No, that's a genuine. I had fun smile. She loved it. She absolutely loved being in the plane with the Chief Anderson, and that really gave Americans confidence in this program that these guys, hey, they can fly. If Eleanor Roosevelt, the most trusted woman in America, says these guys are good, I'm having a blast with these guys, look at me, I'm all safe, then hey, then they could. So March 7th, 1942, the first graduating class graduates. Now, the first group of people to come in, there was 13 of them. Okay. And only 5 graduated. Now, why did only 5 graduate? Well, because the thing is, the program, again, remember, these top commander guys basically were on them because, again, remember, racism and things like that. So they were on him, giving him tests. I mean, extremely hard tests, grilling them. Oh, you didn't make this turn quite the perfect way. We're going to deduct you points and la la la. They did everything they could to make these guys quit, and some did. There were some guys who just couldn't hack it. They like, I'm done with this. I don't need this crap. You know. And so, of the 13, five of them graduated. Now, in April 1942, the Tuskegee trained. Um, basically made up the 99th Pursuit Squadron, and they were mainly in North Africa and Sicily. Okay, so if you remember those battles from a couple weeks ago, um, we talked about, they were there. They were the ones who provided support. Sorry about that. Had a brain fart. The problem was this: they flew these old planes called the P-40, which is that top picture one you see right there. Okay, that's the plane they used to fly. The thing is, these planes suck. They didn't maneuver as well. It was hard. You had to like basically turn like crazy. From what I read, these guys had to you had to basically grab it and use all your strength to turn. And they were slower than the German planes. And the Germans used that bottom plane you see right there. Um, they were faster, maneuver better. So when these Tuskegee Airmen were being shot down and things like that, that's when the military was like, "Oh well, see, look at, see, they can't perform, they suck." Look at they fly in the air on these missions and they get shot down. They get outbeaten by the Germans. How can we win a war if we're getting beat by Germans? And this is the part where the commander Benjamin O. Davis comes in. Now, Benjamin O. Davis is only one of two. Okay, let me break that again. There's only two black officers in the entire army. Two. He's one of them. And he knew, hey, how can you expect our guys to fight if you give them, you've already sabotaged them. You give them the old ass planes, you know that they don't work, you know they're slow as hell, and yet you expect them to go against these amazing German pilots and expect them to win? No, that's like getting in a fight with somebody with and you tie their hands behind their back and you knock them across the head before the fight even begins, and you expect them to win. He's all no, 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 no. So he went in front of the War Department and basically proved the case, saying it's not these guys. The people who's in charge of setting these guys up with equipment, they want them to fail. They want them to fail, and they want them to look bad in front of you guys. And if you guys say, "Oh well, yeah, hey, what could we do?" then you too are the reasons why we're going to be losing this war. Because we're losing pilots. Forget that they're African American. We're losing pilots. And he gives this very compelling case, and it made the War Department go, yeah, you're right. We're losing men, and for what? We're losing battles because these guys aren't given the tools they need to fight. And we're losing battle, we're losing men. So yeah, it's hurting more Americans than it's helping. And why? Just because these people are racist? Do they want them? Do they want these Tuskegee Airmen to fail? So in early 1944, the 99th shot down 12 German fighters in 2 days. That's quite a bit. Now I know that kind of doesn't seem like much, like what, six per day? Who cares? But you have to remember, fighting in the air, it's a hard thing to do. Very extremely hard to do. And just to shoot down one plane in one battle, hey, that's good enough. These guys shot down six on average. Now, in February 1944, the 99th, the 100th, 301st, and 302nd, all Tuskegee pilots and several others were brought together to form the 332 Fighter Group. Okay. Now, why am I telling you all this with the numbers? Because again, this is relevant later on because that's how you'll know, hey, this squadron is the Tuskegee Group. So the 332nd was created so they could, with the one of the best planes, the P-51s. These are better, maneuvered better, um, faster planes, and their jobs were to escort the heavy bombers. So they made sure they flew alongside bombers. And anytime the Germans came with their planes, these guys would go in there and start fighting to protect those bombers so the bombers can drop massive bombs. Now, what made their um, planes unique was that at the end, the tail of the planes were painted red as identification reasons. So when the bombers were told, "Hey, you're getting some red tail escorts," they can keep an eye out, looking around, saying, "Where's our plane? Where's our escorts? Where's our escorts?" Oh, there they are. I see the red tails, and that's became their name, the Red Tails. Okay. Now, um, if you watch the movie Red Tails, take that movie with a grain of salt. Okay, because it's not entirely historically accurate. Even though it's a good action movie, um, the way those some of the guys acted and behaved, they made them seem like really, 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 really cocky. And yes, were they cocky? Yeah, yeah. A lot of pilots were, but they made them overly, just to me, my perspective, way too overly cocky and too brash, like look at me type of thing. Um, and really, these guys were like that, but they weren't to that extreme. Okay. Now, like I told you guys, I'm a big firm believer in the truth. Now, one of the myths about the Tuskegee Airmen, the Red Tails, was they never lost a bomber. When they flew with their bombers, they fought off the Germans and things like that, and the Germans never destroyed one of the bombers that they escorted. That's false, guys. I hate to say it as much as I would love to say, yeah, these guys never let one of their planes down that they were escorting. Yeah, they did lose some. They lost at least 25. Now, here's the thing, that's a lot, right? But the average escort group lost about 46 on average bombers. So their record is pretty good compared to other groups. But the whole myth of, oh, they never lost a bomber, yeah, that's not true. I hate to say it, but it's true. Okay. They flew their last combat mission on April 26, 1945. These guys did not um, really fight in the Pacific. You know, they weren't like doing those maneuver things out there and stuff like that. No, that really wasn't their thing. But they mainly focused on Europe and Africa and Sicily and things like that. They flew 15,000 escort missions in 2 years. That's pretty impressive. That's a lot. They damaged or destroyed 36 planes in the air, 237 planes on the ground, nearly 1,000 rail cars, a transport vehicle, and even a German bomber in the ocean. They destroyed a ship with just the planes. So, yeah, they were pretty good. Of all the soldiers, uh, all the pilots, 66 were killed in action. They were KIA, and about 32 of them were taken as POWs, as prisoner of war. Now, because of these guys, this is one of the main reasons. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the main reasons why on July 26, 1948, President Truman issues Executive Order 9981. Now, what did that do? That desegregated the U.S. Armed Forces, meaning now they weren't going to have black soldiers over here, white soldiers over here, Oh, you can't train these black people, these Latino people, these whatever people, and you can only train white people. No. Now, all people, all Americans were trained the same place, same facility, same way. Everyone could be trained exactly the same way. Okay. There was no more whites over here, blacks over there. Now, this guy you see right there in that picture, that's Audie Leon Murphy. He was born on June 20th, 1924. Now, the thing is, he tried to enlist into the Marines and a paratrooper, those guys who jump off planes with parachutes and stuff. But the thing is, he was rejected because if you ever seen the movie Captain America, the first Avenger, the very, very first movie, that tiny guy, that's basically him. He was only 5'5" and he only weighed like 110 pounds. So he was pretty tiny and tiny, So yeah, the Marines and paratroopers were like, dude, you're too small, you're too skinny. So when he turned 18, he enlisted to the army, and the army was like, we'll take you, you know. So yeah, he joined the army, you know, to fight in 1942. Now, Murphy did a lot of heroic battles. I mean, there's a lot of things he did. But one of my favorite stories with him is the one I'm going to tell you right now. One battle, he commanded Company B. Now, this is during the Battle of the Bulge. And if you remember from a couple lessons, that's when the Nazis basically gathered all their strength and they're pushing to uh, to get more territory back from the Allies. Well, he was in command of this group of people. And what happened was he told his guys, hey, get back, get back into the woods. Because there was like 6 tanks and there was a ton of soldiers coming their way. So he tells them, guys, get back here, get behind the woods and things like that. And thing is, he decided, well, I'm gonna stay here, wait till all my men get as far as they can, things like that. So there was a tank that he was in charge of that was on fire, you know, and on those tanks they have these machine guns, and he basically got on it and just started like shooting at the infantry soldiers. So these German Nazis are coming at him, shooting guns, things like that. And he's with on top of the tank, the busted tank that's on fire, and just he's shooting at them. Right, they're coming on 3 sides of him, front to the sides. Right. The thing is, though, this gun that he's on, it's a 50 caliber machine gun, which is a pretty big bullet. So these bullets are zipping through. These kind of bullets, if they hit somebody, they're gonna they still have enough power to go through another person. You know? So these aren't just like little tiny 22 caliber guns. No, this is a massive bullet, and he's able to destroy and hold back tanks because again these heavy machine gun. So the tanks are rolling up. He's and he's hitting them. They're falling back. Some of the tanks get destroyed. The soldiers are still coming at him, and they get as close as 10 yards to him. Now the thing is, they keep firing at him. He's still shooting at it, and yeah, he's just like going all around him, stopping the Nazis. Now, the only reason he left was because he ran out of ammunition. So the thing is, too, is he got hurt. He got shot in the leg, and he's trying to get to the woods. Now he's figuring, okay, all my men are safe. We're good. And he regroups with his men and everyone. And they're like, "Oh, sir, you're hurt. You should go to the medical tent." He's like, "No, no, 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 forget that. Look at the. I held back these tanks. I destroyed this many tanks. These people are coming this way, this way, this way. These Nazis. What we need to do is right here. You send these men this way. You and I, we're gonna go this way. We're gonna attack them this way. You guys come from this side. and we'll take them. And that's what happened. They were able to, once he regrouped with his men, he was able to fight back the Nazis and basically make them run backwards. He spent 400 days on the front line. Now, the front line, again, as you can tell from the term, is where the main fighting is. He spent over a year there, you know. So he did a lot of his, lot of battles, saved a lot of people, and showed heroic, attributes. And because of that, he received, get this, 33 military awards, citations, and decorations. Basically, he won every medal of valor an American soldier can get. Every single one of them that a soldier can get, he basically won that. On top of that, he won 3 French medals and 1 Belgian medal. Now, at that time, he was the most highly decorated American soldier in U.S. history, being recognized for his bravery and his ability to command and keep a cool head and things like that. Um, so, yeah, people were just like, dude, this little guy, this 5'5" tiny dude, who's, I mean, a strong wind looks like he could be knocked down by it, is an amazing soldier. And he was honorably discharged on September 21st, 1945. Now, he comes home and he's belted with medals. It's just all over. People have heard about him. So, of course, Hollywood is like, dude, Audie Murphy, um, let's talk. And they basically made some movies about what he went through. One film in particular was, again, he starred in, and it was about what he went through, called To Hell and Back. And there's a picture up on top you see right there. Okay. So if you watch that movie and they say Audie Murphy, that's really him. That's really the guy. He starred in other Western movies and shows and things like that. So he did like 44 movies. And sad to say, he did pass away. It happens to everyone on May 28th, 1971. And he is buried in Arlington Cemetery. Now, again, because he was so famous and he was so, people heard about what he did, and people were like, no way, no one could win all those medals. No one could do those things and what they said he did. Yeah, he did. That his grave is actually the second most visited grave in Arlington, because people just want to see, like, is it true? Yeah, it's all true. All right, so here's my question to you. What do you think would happen if the Tuskegee Airmen had not been around? If the War Department, Roosevelt, never said, let's have some black pilots and things like that, do you think the battle in Europe would have ended the same way, same time? Do you think it would have went on for years later? You know, do you think the U.S. Army, the Air Forces and Navy and all them, do you think they would have been desegregated around the same time? You think Truman would still would have said, you know what, we need to stop this whole white blacks and some of that? Or do you think he would have been like, nah, if it works, let's keep on going? If these guys had never existed, show the bravery that they did, that hey, these black pilots, if given a chance, they can show you what they can do, things like that. If those guys were never existed, how do you think the our country would be? How do you think the armed force would be desegregated? Why not? Do you think there'd be other soldiers, World War II, that would have shown the same thing, or do you think no, nobody would have paid attention to them because those are just infantry soldiers? You know. So tell me what you think. Okay. Now, once you finish with this lesson or this question, you're done with the lesson. Okay. Sorry, is that a brain fart right now? So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.